Whether it be on set, in the kitchen, every day is a challenge, and I'd be so bored and if it wasn't like that.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. We've had a few guests on the show that have made the successful transition from TV show Masterchef into a career in hospitality, but perhaps none quite like today's guest. An early winner on the series and part of the Three Blue Ducks empire, Andy Allen is now celebrating 6 years hosting the show that opened the door into life in food for him. Andy Allen, mate, how are you?
Mate, good. I just it sounds so cringe, but I got goosebumps when you read that out, because you get to, I suppose, I think 2012 was when I first entered the Masterchef kitchen as an absolute rookie of a cook, 23-year-old, naive little upstart. And I didn't really think anything of it. And to hear you say that, being part of the Ducks, I think Empire's a bit strong, but but then also, now being back for my 6th year as a judge on Masterchef, it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear.
It's interesting. Masterchef originally hospitality was a bit sort of funny about Masterchef, and then people sort of moved into the industry from it. What was that experience like for you, going from the show and into the industry? How did it even sort of that connection happen for you?
Mate, it was a wild one. Like, I think I met the Ducks. They were guest chefs on season 4 in 2012, my season. And I remember just it was Mark, Daz, and Sharon Debrasini who came in, and I just remember a couple of things. It was their demeanour. It was very relaxed. It was very chilled. They had, at this point, only had the Bronte Cafe, which was doing its thing and was new on the scene. And obviously their food was another thing I was drawn to. And then after all the guest chefs in those days came back for the finale, and somehow I was lifting that trophy, and Mark came up to me at the end and he was like, "Mate, when you're done with all the riffraff, come and see me." And I was like, okay, I was definitely attracted to what the Ducks were at that point. Hadn't been to the cafe because I was still living in Maitland at the time. And anyway, I'd moved to Sydney and visited the Ducks. Just went in for breakfast, caught up with the boys, etc. And then about 8 months after I was the winner, there was another winner, and I didn't think much of it until I was in my little flat in Coogee. And after the show, you get pulled in a lot of different directions, and you kind of you're doing media stuff, you're doing cooking demos, you're doing all this weird stuff. But I remember I hadn't done anything for a whole week, and it was the NBA finals were on, and I'd basically watched from Friday to Monday of NBA finals, and I was like, bloody hell, is this your life now, or is this where you go back and continue being an electrician back in Newcastle? And I was like, nah, stuff it, like if these media jobs have kind of dried up, what do you actually really want to do with this? And I was like, I really enjoyed learning about food, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do anything in the industry, I want to learn how to cook properly. Because I was pretty open to, you go on a TV show like that, you go through the process, you learn a lot, but you don't learn how to do things properly from a book. So I knocked on the Ducks' door, and I did work experience for 2 weeks. I was shooting their first cookbook at the time, so I think they saw a bit of free labour come through the door, and they're like, "Yeah, bloody hell, get in there, mate." And I remember working out in the back kitchen in Bronte, and Daz came out the back, and I was doing, at that point, Daz, Mark, and Shaz, and Mikey Clift. It was a pretty all-star team in there, and I just potted around out the back and had my little section. And Daz came out, and after the third night on tools, he was like, "Mate, you actually go all right. Like, would you want to take up a full-time job here?" And so I did, and I just kind of worked my ass off for about a year, and then the boys were like, why don't we take it a step further and open a joint? And that was Rosebery.
You were sort of familiar with working hard with your career as a Sparky, but was it different being in a commercial kitchen compared to your MasterChef experience? Like, were there challenges for you?
Mate, it took me way back to playing sport. There was probably people in the kitchen that were like, oh, who's this guy who's been on a reality TV show? Because I think at that point it was still deemed more a reality TV show than a cooking competition. And it was only season 4, so there wasn't like a huge amount of people who had gone out into the industry, not like we see today. So I think that there was like not everyone, but people thought I was going to fail. He's not good enough. He's a TV, a bit of a TV wanker, and he's coming into this kitchen and we'll see how he goes. And I loved that aspect about it because I just love proving people wrong. And I did that for a lot of years playing basketball at a reasonably high level. And, I'm not 6'5", I'm 5'10.5" on a good day. And, being short and on a basketball court is not your best friend. And so there was always that kind of, he's too short. He can't play, he can't do what we need him to do. So I just, from a young age, had that mentality of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that was the same in this kitchen setup. It wasn't like I was copping shit, but it was just like, I felt like, people thought I was there because I'd won a reality TV show. And I was like, no, I'm here because I want to go into service and I want to have the best service that we can together because that's what I'm here for. So, yeah, I think that's why I thrived in the kitchen, the kitchen space, because it really did remind me of team sport.
You've been a part of the success of the Three Blue Ducks and its expansions. What's that been like for you? It's been years now that you've been part of it. They've celebrated 15 years as a business. What's the state of play like now for you guys? There's been a bit of changes in the last sort of year or two.
Yeah, I think, it was sad when Marky decided to move on. I think for me, back in that time when I was cooking in the Bronte kitchen, and there was that opportunity that when Rosebery came up, Mark was a real driving force in me coming on board. I remember him saying, like, you're ready. If you don't do it with us, you're going to do it with someone else. And so it was for me a really sad time when Marky decided to move on because he did give me my opportunity. But, man, I got to say, like, we're in a really good spot at the moment. I'm touching every piece of wood in my house at the moment because I know it can change tomorrow, maybe even not today, but I just feel we're starting to get the right pieces in place, and this sounds so cliche, but COVID was a long burn, man. Like, it was a long burn. And we're just, I would say, we had a great summer throughout all the venues. We've put the right people in the right places. And I really feel like, after your 15 years, after COVID, we kind of got together and we were like, when I say after COVID, when we were kind of in COVID, you kind of like, what do we want to achieve here? You kind of reset the goals and we're like, what do we want to achieve here? And me being the youngest of the group, there's guys like Daz and Jeff and even Mark, like, they're not spring chickens anymore. And now I feel like I'm getting to that age. That. Yeah, it's like, what do we actually want to get out of this? And I feel like we've kind of had that little meeting probably every 6 months throughout, like after COVID, during COVID, in 2021 and then onwards up until now. And I really feel like we do want to continue to grow our brand and to grow our hospitality arm of our brand because that's what we love. We love opening new venues. We love the excitement that brings to wherever we do it. And like I said before, I feel like we've got more now than ever. We've got the right people in the right places to make that happen.
You're based in Melbourne these days. What's your role with the Ducks there in Melbourne? What's your sort of day-to-day like?
Yeah, so it does differ from when I'm shooting. I call it off season and game time because it is a bit of a battle, and that's why when I say we've got the right people in the right places. We've hired an executive chef, Dan Cooper, who was ex Chiswick, and then before that, the Prince down in Melbourne. And it really has just allowed me to focus more on the business. And I hate saying that because I love cooking more than anything. But we are in that position, where we've got 6 venues. We want to grow. Me going in there and cooking on the line, it's not the best use of my time. And as much as, like I say, that burns me because it's what I really love to do. If we want to grow this thing, we need to be smart and need to be efficient. And Dan's come on and really, hit the ground running. He's only been with us for about four months, but I mean, that coincided. I've been filming for 4 months. So it really has been great to see the results and see not just my head chef down in Melbourne, but all of our head chefs really get the most out of Dan. And, it's with Daz and I, we're busy blokes, and whether we're in the business or working out of the business, to have someone like Dan, who's like a conduit between Daz and myself and the head chefs, it really has worked wonders, and we've seen a great summer, and it's continued on. So, I definitely get out to Melbourne as often as I can because there's nothing better than just, I love having that owner presence, and I think there's nothing more valuable than an owner chatting to staff and really. I do feel like I can provide a real galvanized culture in any venue, especially Melbourne, and that's what it's needed, because it wasn't easy when we opened, midway through COVID, and we opened and shut 5 times in our first year of trading. So it's actually in a really good spot, which I'm stoked to say.
In a little while, I want to talk about that transition from industry back into the show and the hosting role and the impact it's had on you. But take us back to when you were young, because I'm really interested about the role that food play, because you started a career as a sparky and then moved into food. But what sort of role did food play for you growing up?
Mate, it was an interesting one. I mean, I grew up in Maitland, which is 25 minutes west of Newcastle. There was the local Chinese, there was Pizza Hut. There wasn't really much around in terms of dining experience, or it just wasn't part of my life. Mum and Dad were school teachers. I had 2 older sisters. I played every sport under the sun. So did my sisters. So it was a lot of like going from school to whatever sport to home, and food probably fell by the wayside a little bit. We ate to be fueled rather than sitting down as a family and really enjoying it. I think when we were home we did that, but it was like Dad had like 5 dishes that he probably so-called mastered, and he'd just batch them and we ate them. This green chicken curry still gives shivers down my spine, like with this overcooked broccoli and beans that were just grey, and this like weak as piss green curry sauce that he made. But he tried, and I think for me it really did. We had a holiday house. Well, we had a couple of a caravan down at Fingal Bay, in Nelson Bay there, and for me, like, it really did start when we'd go out on the boat and I'd go spearfishing and we'd spear some fish. We'd put the crab pots out. That whole like hunter-gatherer mentality, I didn't realise it back then, but it has played a big part of my development as a cook. And I think there was one time where I remember it was Mum's 50th. We're going back a while now. Love you, Mum. But it was Mum's 50th, and she had a lot of family and friends around, and we went out spearfishing the day before, and like, it wasn't like we were out in the blue water. We speared a bunch of blackfish or luteric and came home the next day, and I was like, Mum, I'll cook these for everyone. And we had like a dozen fish, and it wasn't like anything out of this world, but it was just like, I think that was the first time that I kind of like tested myself and really enjoyed that process of catching, cooking, enjoyment. And that was kind of I suppose the catalyst of me continuing to like do that and having, it's so cliche, but that power of bringing people together. Like, as we got older and older, it's hard to get your mates around, but when you're saying, hey fellas, I'm going to put on a feast of Savo, do you want to come around for a beer and a feed? You'd be amazed how many of the boys were there. So I think I think it really did start then, and and I've really loved seeing the development of my family in food as well because, it was like there was an interest in food, but it was more of we were so busy as a family in my teenage years that we didn't really get to explore that, and now it's slowing down a little bit. My dad's got the veggie patch. He loves to still go out and mum and dad go fishing, and my sister's right into growing and cooking, and it really has evolved as a family, which is really, really beautiful.
Do you think that you've impacted their sort of interest in food in that way?
Yeah, I think so. Like mate, when I filled out that application form in 2012, everyone, me included, thought I'd be back at the house the next week, but it kind of didn't turn out that way. And, just the things that I've been exposed to in the industry, I was exposed to in the industry early, everyone just kind of rallied around and it was, our family watched MasterChef, but it really did kind of open up that love for food, dining. I still get a kick out of taking the family to a new venue and just seeing their eyes light up, and my mum and dad dining in our venues, and I wish that all of our guests were as kind as my mum and dad.
2012 is quite a while ago now. Do you remember that season? You mentioned that you didn't feel like you had the skills and you'd be out of there in a week, and you ended up winning it. What was it that you learnt or took along the way that sort of changed things for you enable you to do that?
Oh, mate, I think I was the perfect contestant, really. Like, I wasn't like hugely into food. Like I said, I enjoyed that kind of aspect of entertaining, and I enjoyed the challenge of entertaining as well. But I didn't come from a long line of cooks. I didn't have Nonna who taught me her way of doing things. I came in really green. I was only 23 years old. Back in those days, you lived in a house with all the other contestants. I had no kids. I had no mortgage. I was kind of like the perfect contestant because I was just there to learn and enjoy it. And when you're in that, people can say whatever they want about MasterChef, but it is a cooking competition, and first and foremost. And when you're in that environment and all you want to do is learn, and you take every opportunity as a learning opportunity, that's exactly what I did. And I had no bad habits to take in there, and I just grew and grew and grew and grew, and somehow came out on top. So I think that there were a lot of things, and like back then, mate, like it was pretty intense. I'm not saying it's not intense now, but we lived in a house. Filming went for 5.5, 6 months. We had no phones. The house AP had a burner phone, which she'd you were allowed 1 10-minute phone call a week.
Wow.
It was not, it's mate, glorified prison. It was prison with the best pantry in the world. And it was just you, cookbooks and the kitchen when you could get some space to do some cooking. So it was perfect for me, because if I was allowed to go out and visit my friends and my family, then I would have. But it was just all about what was going on in my life at that point, and it was just that competition.
What was it like for you, sort of after a decade in the industry, going back as host? Was it, how did that sort of change your view of the show and also your confidence after all those years in the industry? Yeah,
I think I think when I've been lucky, I'd always kept in contact with MasterChef in some way, shape or form after winning in 2012. So it wasn't like I'd left in 2012 and then just somehow popped up as a judge. I'd always gone back as a guest cook or a judge or doing a masterclass or something along those lines. So it was still quite definitely part of my life, but that first season was another back to win. That's what we're doing this year, is another back to win. So 24 ex-contestants who'd been there, done that, coming back for another crack. And I was like, I was pretty I wouldn't say nervous is the right word, but I was like, there was always that question mark on, whether someone would think that my opinion stands is better than theirs, and I think it was weird that I can still remember that first bit of feedback that I gave to a contestant, and you could just see them engaged. I was like, okay, this is good. Like all of the work that I've done in the restaurants over the last however many years, they respect that, and I've earned that respect, and now I can really just get down to getting the best out of the contestants as I possibly could.
Did your experience sort of on the show as a contestant, did that sort of shape the way that you've judged the contestants?
No, I don't think so. Like, I think definitely like the mental side of things, and it sounds so weird, but like it is such a mental game, MasterChef. Like the moment that I realised the mindset that I should be in to cook my best food, and I'll tell you the story because it was an interesting one. This is how little I had to do with, little knowledge I had about food. I think there was 12 contestants left, and it was a double elimination. And, Matt, George and Gary at the front introducing the guests. Anyway, doors burst open. There's this big burly figure with a headband on walking down. All the contestants are losing their shit. And this guy's walking down the middle twirling a chef's knife on his index finger. And I'm like, what's going on here? Anyway, it was Marco Pierre White, wasn't it? So he's walking down, there's like this, everyone's losing it, and I'm like, okay, this must be serious. Like I got to really get my game face on, like make sure I smash this first round because it was a 2-round elimination. I don't want to be in that second round, so really zone in. And I'd never cooked like that before. I always enjoyed that process of being under pressure, but I really put so much pressure on my shoulders. I cooked the worst dish ever, and I was in the second round down to, and this is a sliding doors moment as well. Like down to the bottom, there was 3 of us in round two. It was a double elimination. So I got a fair chance of going home, right? And I was like, right, if this is it, just enjoy this last one. I really enjoyed, I had a good banter with Marco. Like we were having, shared a few jokes in the cook. I was really loving it. And then, at the end of it, he was like, the person who I think should stay was Andy. And I was like, bloody hell, I could have been out and probably been an electrician if that didn't happen. So for me, I've always taken that as it's such a mental game, that competition, and you just need to tap into how you cook your best, and not so it's the creative thing will always be there. There'll be good dishes, there'll be bad dishes, but you just want to walk into that kitchen and just feel comfortable and enjoy it. And that was me. It's different for everyone, but just find that sweet spot of how you cook your best. And I've taken that. Well, when Jock Lewis and myself were announced as the next judges, the first thing that the production said is, we do not want another Matt, George and Gary. And all respect to them, because, mate, they just lifted that show up on their shoulders and made it an absolute juggernaut. But they just wanted us to be themselves. They knew that we weren't going to be able to compete with trying to be them, and they chose us as a reason. So the way that they did things wasn't necessarily the way that we did things, but that's just because we're so different.
As we know, we lost Jock not all that long ago, and like many in the industry, knew him very well. What was that period of time like for you, and what's your sort of fondest memory of working with him?
Oh, mate, it was the hardest thing. That's COVID was COVID, and that as a business wise, that was the hardest thing I've been through. But losing Jock was, I've been quite lucky. I haven't had anything like that, any tragedies like that with someone really close to me that was so sudden in my life, and for that to happen and to be in the public eye and it was just a real lesson, a life lesson, I suppose. And Yeah, I think I miss him. So I mean, to give you an insight, like I've just lost someone who I was so close with. I had lunch with the guy the day before, um, and like I couldn't go out of my house because there was just people out the front of my house. They thought that I was going to go see Loz, so if they could follow me, then they could get to Loz and the kids, and like it was just something that I would never wish on anyone while you're trying to work out how to grieve the loss of one of your best mates. So it was brutal, but I think I'm like I always think back and I'm quite proud of the way that I have dealt with it, because I've always just wanted to be there for Loz and the kids. Like I think a lot of people saw the jock in the industry, but they didn't see the jock at home, and I was lucky enough to witness that and be a part of that. And he was just so important to his family. And so for him to not be there anymore, I just really wanted to be there for. I mean, Loz is just one of the strongest people on the face of the planet. But it was more like being there for the kids and Isla and Alfie especially. Just trying to be there for them, and it's been such a rough ride for those kids, but Loz has just paved the way for them and just been so special, and they're just turning out to be the biggest legends, those two. So I think I'm proud of myself in how I've kind of dealt with that, and I just the fact that Loz knows that she can always just call me for absolutely anything, anytime. I'm just happy that's the case.
You mentioned a little earlier that this season of MasterChef is back to win. So there's a fair chance that the contestants and have known them for a while. What's that like as a judge, having sort of known them sort of out of the show or through the show and now judging them on it?
I actually really enjoy it. And have some I've had things to do with, others first time. So I think it's amazing to see Laura back in the kitchen, Laura Sharrod, obviously being on a jock's wing for so many years, her and Max, and then her going out and doing her thing. She fell short last time she was in the kitchen where Jock and I, we're a big part of that. But then, for her, she's got a 6 month up. Well, it was 6 months. We've been filming for a while. I think Florence would be about 9 or 10 months now. She's got a young baby. She's got, there's just a lot for her. There's so many reasons for her to say no to coming back. And I think it's kind of the power of the show, right? If you get someone who's a mum, got businesses, knows how hard it is. Is like, for her to like go, let's roll the dice for a third time. It's really special to have her in the kitchen. It's kind of a testament to to what the competition is. And I've really enjoyed most of the contestants I've had something to do with, but others not so much. And I've enjoyed that kind of mentor aspect of it. I enjoy it even more, maybe even more now that that myself and Jock aren't there together. I don't know. I've really tried to champion that kind of the qualities that Jock brought to really just getting the best out of every individual that walks through those doors, and it's something that he did so well. And I think I've kind of really taken that aspect of him and tried to input that, take that on myself, and I'm really enjoying that kind of new leadership role of that, I suppose, last season and carried on into this season.
I know you've been filming for quite a while and it's about to come out, MasterChef, but what do you have planned for the sort of year ahead?
Mate, it's a good question. I think, I have always tried to get a good balance of things, between the ducks, between Traveller, between everything else that comes with MasterChef and all that kind of stuff. Balance is key, and I feel like I've never really got it right, and I'm continuing to kind of learn because there's no playbook for this. And so the Ducks we're in a beautiful position at the moment where there's, you know, some more opportunities bubbling away, and like as I said, we've got the pieces in place to make sure that the things that we've got continue to run at a high level. But that's really important to me because, you know, if I always think about these things, if I never went into the Ducks, then I wouldn't be where I am today. Like in terms of being a judge, I really think putting the runs on the board in the industry was the one thing, you know, that probably put my hat in the ring and maybe got me over the line. So, yeah, I think that's important to me. And also, like, you know, just making sure that I got time for my family and my friends is a big one too. I think there's been years where I just get sucked into the vortex of saying yes to a lot of things, whether it be Ducks, Traveller, outside. It just happens, and I think, you know, making sure that I got time for Alex and my wife and all of my friends, it really does. It does make you better at what you do, I feel, if you do get that balance right, and I'm still working that out, but yeah, we'll see how we go.
Well, you've had an amazing career to date, and no doubt we're going to see some special things from here on. What do you love about what you do?
Mate, every day is a challenge, and that's why I really walked into that kitchen in the first place at the Ducks. You know, whether it be on set, in the kitchen, every day is a challenge, and I'd be so bored and if it wasn't like that. And sometimes it feels like there's too many challenges in one day, but I think it's kind of testament to the people that I've got around me, of like, you know, how we can work through the challenges that come up on a daily basis. So yeah, I just love that aspect of it, mate. Like I love a challenge. I love a challenge, and sometimes I wish they're a bit freaking easier. But yeah, there's never a dull moment, and I just love the people that I work with as well. Whether it be, you know, the Ducks boys, whether it be, you know, the Traveller gang, whether it be my manager Maddie, my wife Alex, my family. I've got some great people around me, and there's no way that you can, again, I'm clicheing on cliche, but there's no way you could do this, because there is having a lot of different things that you have to kind of flick between on a daily basis. And that's the really challenging, that's really not challenging, that's the hard thing about what I've kind of been able to do. It's like, you know, there's a lot in a day, and trying to, you know, you think in the restaurants there's a lot in a day if you just focused on that, but then you throw everything else on top that I've got going, and that's the thing that really tests me to be able to still enjoy what I'm doing and being able to flick from thing to thing to thing. That's the hard thing, and the only way that I'm able to do that is with good people around me.
Well, mate, I know it's been a long time coming, but it's been an absolute joy to finally get you on Deep in the Weeds. Look forward to seeing what you do in the year ahead, mate. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon. Yeah,
beauty, mate. I think it was a fitting time. You know, I know I've been trying to do it for a couple of years now, but yeah, I just feel like it was worth the wait, because I just feel like there's so much clarity that I've got now with everything that's happened. Like, and I mean, I'm sure it'll be pretty murky. There'll be some murky waters ahead, but like, I feel like right now there's a lot of clarity, and it's just really nice to speak to you about that.
Mate, legend. Keep in touch.
No worries, mate. Have a good one. Thanks for the chat.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.